で、今日の私からのメッセージ。Imagine a rebel leader killing the crown. The princess is kidnapped to block the succession. And somehow the killer becomes her reluctant guardian. They should hate each other's guts, right? Instead, the enemy's two lovers, connoisseurs, are already screaming, weigh anchor and set sail, copulate and populate. Do you know that people do the same tricks during first dates? Any mutated butterflies we feel in our stomachs usually get miscredited to love. We feel excited, chills, our head hurts, or we are bleeding to death. It must be love. Let's be real, you're not a Rentaro. So today, we'll be learning why we often betray ourselves due to what's called the misattribution of arousal, and how we can become a better person by understanding why people just find enemies to lovers trope so alluring. Because if we don't, well, let's just say that these biases wreck relationships at best, but spark catastrophic events at worst. When talking about worst betrayals, you may think about Judas against Jesus, or Brutus against Caesar, or maybe Griffith in Berserk, or Scar in The Lion King. Yeah, you got the idea. Just pick any isekais or fantasy story. There's bound to be a betrayal somewhere. Yeah, Jesus was isekai, but what if I told you that your mind is betrayal's worst form? It's the worst because you never see it coming. Yeah, get the fuck out of it. And you never recognize it. Misattribution of arousal is a brain quirk. Whenever your body reacts, be it fear, excitement, anxiety, or even a food coma, your mind can mislabel that sensation as attraction to someone nearby. Think back to your own first dates. Your heart races in myriads of ways, but more often than not, you try to justify it to be your love for that other person, not solely because of the activities. Your body is basically L trying to collect evidence endlessly, but your mind is Kira.
Fuck you. Okay. Is there something I can do?
Yeah, you can give me your fucking analysis on the blood spatter on these killings. You think I'm here to invite you to my nephew's bris?
I didn't know you were Jewish.
Shut the fuck up and write your report already.
Now, remember Shoya and Shoko from Koe no Katachi, both fighting each other in their childhood. The manga actually went harder than the movie, by the way. Then, when the two meet again years later, a chance where the former bully, driven to isolation by guilt, may become an empathetic lover for the bullied that was also driven to isolation by guilt. Your heart's doing acrobatics routine. Shoya wasn't able to see the grown-up version of Shoko and kept thinking her as a very important child to protect because of altruistic guilt. Meanwhile, yeah, motherfucker was even doing aggressive jutsu to her sis, defending Shoya. Shoko felt like she's a burden to everyone due to her being deaf, making her think that Shoya becoming isolated and losing connection with his childhood friends was also her fault. This begs the question, if altruism is truly the source of joy and a selfless behavior that benefits others, why did Shoko even decide later to throw herself off the balcony? Your heart was doing acrobatics when they met again, and your mind expected them to have chemistry. Thus, the scene would have thrown most viewers off because, metaphorically, they didn't see it coming. So has your mind betrayed you in some way? More importantly, what does that mean for you? Forget hand-holding. This isn't some cozy iyashike where everyone holds hands and sings kumbaya. Misattribution of arousal is usually caused by self-serving bias, which has its vaudeville trio: denial, overconfidence, and high NFC. Performing non-stop spin, eye framing, and ego flex on a stage. Yeah, that sounds like an Oregairu episode. So, before we drown in Monogatari-style psychology mambo-jumbo, I'll introduce some of our foreign friends. Self-serving bias. It is when you take all credit when something good happened, but never take any blame when something bad happened. SSB manifests in any tsunderes, the ones that go, those who have god complex, yanderes during certain times, and can show up in any role where reputation status or self-worth are on the line.
そうよ、私が悪いんじゃないわ。誰のせいで誤解を受けつつも頑張ってると思ってんのよ。でも、キョウ君だって悪いんだよ。心を開かなければエヴァは動かないわ。心を閉ざしてるっての、この私が。
いや、かけたつもりはなかった。こうなったらユーフェミアを最大限利用するしかない。
違わないさ。目の前に可能性があったから試した。それが禁忌であると知っていても。
Moving along to Need for Closure or NFC. Our brains crave quick answers, especially in the high-stakes moments. Humans are meaning-seeking creatures. Thus, our meaning-seeking impulse often pushes us to grab the first possible explanation and stick with it, rather than dwell on uncertainty. People with trait-level high NFCs prefer to have clear answers and dislike ambiguity. They tend to make quick decisions, rely heavily on first impressions, and in most cases have a tendency to stereotype or have prejudices. This is why some only watch episode 1 of shows and can decide whether to drop them or not. Once they have that first decision, they keep reinforcing that first story by filtering any data that doesn't match and resisting any alternative viewpoints. But Santora, yes hello? What do all of these cognitive biases have to do with enemies to lovers? And why is there a three-wattled bellbird on my screen? Well, look at this. Enemies to lovers trope always starts off on the wrong foot. Subprime first impressions. Nonetheless, the characters are always tied to propinquity, like arranged marriage, co-workers, co-students, you name it. They just have to work together towards a shared goal. Now the bias is way down on future chain of events, them bickering, building trust, or testing it. Let's call that chain of events bridge. At any point, all of the biases are resolved. The bridge survives and they can skip to the end. On the other hand, at any point all of the biases get too heavy. The bridge collapses. The more you look at this screen, the more you look back on past events and how those past events click into this bridge. Maybe you instantly remember every Enemies to Lovers series, any isekai or fantasy story. Maybe you remember what happened to Kemono Friends. Maybe you also remember what happened to Star Wars Battlefront 2. Maybe you remember what is happening at all in the past few years for AAA gaming. Now I know some of you lore skippers love jumping through timelines so much. You basically okabed through Tutorial City. Your NFC is so high, you went straight to brute force yelled about. From romance anime to real world relationships. We keep hitting the same beats and burning the same bridges. Misattributed arousal fuels false expectations. Denial tears marriages apart, and overconfidence takes part in literal plane crashes and metaphorical ones. SSBs fuel everything from bedroom to boardroom blunders to the decision making that sparks wars. From a bird's eye view, it feels like being Nagato. But why do these patterns persist? And why do we keep betraying ourselves time and again? And pause. Were you even slightly curious why I haven't brought up Shoya and Shoko again? Do they have SSB?
No, that's wrong.
Self-effacing bias. It's the literal yin for SSB. You downplay wins and take the blame for pretty much everything. It's like you're a healer or something. SEB has its own vaudeville trio. Acceptance, overcautious, and low NFC. While Dandere and Hajidere usually have SEBs, it also shows up in any role where reputation status or self-worth are on the line. It's just that those with SEBs are often too busy drowning to point fingers.
やっぱり夢だこれは。だって現実にこんなことあるわけないよ。あったとしても私の身に起こるわけがない。
一人娘のたった一つの願いも聞いてやれないのか。ナギさ、こんな時にお前がいてくれれば。恩人は所詮何やったって無駄ってことかよ。どんなに追いつきたいと思っても結局ダメなんだ。俺たちがボロボロになるまで頑張ったってどうせ無駄なんだ。
私はもうご不要ですか。少佐に命令はいただけないのでしょうか。命令は私の全てです。ご迷惑をおかけして申し訳ありませんでした。映像外なのにちゃんとできなくごめんなさい。
西宮は私と一緒にいると不幸になると言った。西宮を不幸にしたのは俺なの。
The bridge has stayed the same throughout history, even when it is an SEB. Shoya over-apologizes and Shoko over-forgives, both nearly drowning in guilt. They swing so far from denial that they break under the weight of their own remorse. They both keep seeing themselves as the villains of the stage, until they almost sank. Most bridges collapse because we don't learn, we don't want to know, and we don't want to be responsible for what we may come to understand. Dealing with both vaudeville trios will vastly improve your basically everything really. Alright, it's almost curtain call. SSB fuels learned optimism, and SEB fuels learned helplessness. SSB is like a rupture, and SEB is like a leak. Both have their own ABCs. Accountability, break, curiosity. The key is to safely crossing the bridge toward mutual surrender. Rhetoric flatters our ego, so we dodge risks, avoid fixes, and fail to set boundaries. When we tolerate everything out of misplaced empathy or indifference, the status quo tends to get worse as we grow complacent. Our high need for closure makes us rush to the wrong answer, while our low need for closure makes us comfortable leaving things unresolved. Most skim the surface and act surprised when nothing's different. We rarely take a moment to ask whether we've even started digging. Kids ask why all the time, but grown-ups trade that for routine or surface-level novelty. That's why we skim and stall. Diversive curiosity dazzles. Epistemic curiosity digs. When the first dominates, the second gets sidelined. The thing is, we don't always get to use this ABC. Barriers include time constraints and internal or external expectations, unknown unknowns shaped by power, wealth, or willful ignorance, and cultural forces such as saving face, pathological altruism, toxic positivity, filial piety, fear of retaliation, crab mentality, or stigma around failure. Each of these is its own rabbit hole, and I've already gone down a few of them, if you're curious, In conclusion, other than me slowly losing my mind, this explains why we misread the causes of our arousals. we attribute those mutated butterflies to the wrong things. That misattribution warps our decisions, our relationships, and our ability to use ABC. The enemies to lovers trope is so alluring because our body and mind conspire to tell flattering stories. When our thinking ruptures into SSB mode, the butterfly becomes claiming, "I'll fix them, I'm the hero, this is destiny." What looks like care can quietly betray the other by turning help into control. When our thinking leaks into SEB mode, the butterfly becomes owing, "I must do this for them, I have to sacrifice, I owe them." What feels noble can betray the self by erasing boundaries. Both feel emotionally satisfying, one as triumphant clarity, the other as noble self-sacrifice. But neither really proves love. Real love isn't conquest or martyrdom, it's mutual surrender. So let's not drop our keys crossing the bridge. If any of us do, the bridge could collapse and we could get lost.